How are y'all today, this Sunday afternoon? I hope that everybody's well, fine, home, relaxing, or doing whatever it is you do on a Sunday afternoon. I wanted to do this video to talk to you a little bit about a video I did just a day or so ago about Trump's refusing to take the coronavirus test, although being exposed to the virus himself. A lot of people said they didn't care, they hope he died, etc., etc. And now people are saying that he has in fact been tested. As I did the research and looked at the articles in regards to his being tested, I saw nothing from his doctor that said that he was actually tested. It is Trump who said, yeah, I was tested Friday night. And when asked for the results, when the results would be, he said, oh, about 2 or 3 days. But then the following day on Saturday, he said he got the results and he's fine. Okay? So that was the following day. It wasn't 2 to 3 days. And that's not even an issue. The issue that I have with that is that as his doctor, if you're speaking nationally as his doctor concerning his test results, can't you plainly say Trump was tested and the results were negative? But you didn't even address the test. Not in the articles that I read. All his doctor said was Trump remains free and clear of symptoms, which was the same thing that they've been saying from the beginning. Anyway, I'm not going to get into a debate or whether Trump was tested or wasn't tested, because at this point it doesn't matter. Okay, and the issue that I was raising was not so much Trump's failure to test himself, but directives given by the CDC and his own administration, which he, as president, didn't follow, in comparison to the thousands of people who exhibited symptoms of having the virus, who were denied testing because the tests didn't exist. The tests weren't available. So I took an issue at all of that because he's standing up before the nation saying he's not concerned, don't worry about it, it'll pass. Meanwhile, his administration sat on its ass and did nothing concerning this virus until 2 days ago. Okay, they came together with the Democrats and they came up with a great relief package, $50 billion. It's supposed to provide testing, supposed to provide protective wear for those in the medical field. It's supposed to provide relief for workers, people who are unemployed or who may not be able to go to work as a result of illness, as well as those in business, small businesses who may lose business because certain establishments are being shut down. All these things were agreed to, but they have to be signed. So hopefully when these things are signed by the Senate, they can go into play and we'll see the relief that's needed and people can begin to be tested. Throughout the entire time since the first case was confirmed, there's been nothing done. Nothing. Okay, and this is totally unacceptable to me when you see what happened in China. And then you have a president get on TV and say, don't be concerned about it, while continual cases are growing. Okay, so that was the issue that I was raising in the video that I made concerning his testing. You know, hoping that people could see the contrast and wonder what's going on, or at least recognize what this government is not doing in order to protect it against this virus. Meanwhile, city officials across the nation were busy declaring a state of emergency, even where no state of emergency existed. There are states who declared a state of emergency that had no cases of the coronavirus, but they declared one anyway. Okay, and some people may feel like, well, that's a precautionary measure that needs to be done. Okay, but then you have to decide whether or not you care about your rights, you care about your laws, or if you allowed yourself to be instilled with fear before the time. If all of those things is okay, the violation of rights and things like that, because of what might happen. Okay, a state of emergency is declared usually for natural disasters after they've occurred, when the state and local municipalities are unable to fund the amount of money needed to restore the cities or the communications from the wreckage that happened. Once they see that they don't have the money in order to do that, then they call a state of emergency. In no case do you call a state of emergency when no emergency exists. That's how it goes. Okay, that's the law. You may agree with it or not in light of the coronavirus, but that's what it is. Declaring a state of emergency gives those presiding over the cities power to act outside the law. Okay, your laws and your rights do not apply. Okay, they have the right to direct certain things, which they've already begun. You know, you can't gather here, you can't gather there, only in this amount of people. You know, certain things like that before we've even really come into a state of emergency. If you look at the devastation that the virus has caused in China, you will agree with everything that's being done. But if you look at the reality of the situation here, we're not in a state of emergency. We potentially face one, but should each and every state be declared a state of emergency when it is the government itself who failed and refused to act? No. I think the attention ought to be directed upwards in what this government failed to do. Like I said, okay, now they've done it, and hopefully all these things will be addressed. But now we still have to deal with cases of the coronavirus. Thousands of people who weren't tested, who potentially might be infected. So the possibility is even greater that we will have a devastating crisis here in this country. It all could have been prevented. It could have been avoided. You know, if the government in Washington simply had the will to do so. Okay, the power was there, the resources was there, the only thing they lacked was the will. So when I see a president get on national TV and say, don't be concerned with it, I have a problem with that. And then when you go even further and say, I'm not taking a test, it's not needed, I have a problem with that too. You're sending two different messages to the people, you know, and what could be a devastating consequence for us all. You know, I saw a similar situation happen during 9/11 when the World Trade disaster occurred. You know, I saw red alert, orange alert, helicopters flying, people terrorized into feeling that any moment another terrorist attack was going to strike. You know, and it was during that period that people allowed their civil liberties, their rights to privacy, you know, everything be stripped away because they were so petrified and terrorized. It was like, whatever it takes, just do it, do it, do it. They didn't care. Okay, they didn't even know that acts were created to accuse what began with Muslims as being declared a terrorist. Just before they signed it, they amended it to include all Americans. So now any one of us can be declared as a terrorist, and you don't have a right to an attorney. They don't even have to tell you what they're charging you with. You get locked up and go to jail, and nobody will ever see you again. This is what was allowed. So here we are again, facing another crisis, the coronavirus, okay, which to date, the amount of casualties has not even equaled the amount of casualties that have occurred over the flu. And then you have a president saying, don't be concerned. You see him not taking actions that show there's no reason to be concerned, or to at least question, is there some reason to be concerned? Because I don't see them doing anything, and from what they're saying out of their mouth, it doesn't appear to be a serious situation, yet we're being put on potential lockdown state after state by state of emergencies being declared. You know, events are being canceled. You know, stores are being shut down. People are being contained in their community for no other reason than the telling of a virus that's coming, you know, and knowledge of the potential damage and harm that could occur. So I'm like, okay, here we go again. You know, as a person who for years have fought for rights or the lack of rights and injustice against people, I really take an issue with how things are being done. You know, I see a risk here, not just from the coronavirus alone, but I see a risk as far as peoples, minority peoples, people of color, people whose rights have been trampled upon way before this virus was even talked about. People who have been shot out in the street, broad daylight, hands up, hands cuffed. It didn't matter. You know, so when you put into play a situation where rights don't exist and you have the National Guard here and you're totally prepared to declare martial law, you know, if you feel the need, oh yeah, I got an issue with that. I have an issue with that. And I don't expect everybody to understand it or agree, especially if your focus is the virus, and what it's done in China and what they're telling you, it may do here. I don't expect for you to get somebody looking at it from a lawful point of view, or the total injustices that could occur in the midst of this. Because if this virus hits the way that they're projecting that it will hit, nobody's going to give a damn about your rights. Nobody's going to give a damn if they drag you out your house and send you off to be quarantined, or you're there indefinitely, or nobody's going to nobody's going to care. When they see the devastation, when they hear, of all the deaths that have occurred, nobody's going to give a damn about your rights or what the National Guard or any entity is doing to you and your community. Okay, the time to be concerned that everything is being done correct, fair, and as needed is now. And if you're not doing that, or if you're not concerned about it now, don't be concerned about it then. Okay, you need to watch a video in China and see how they dealt with that situation. Okay, if you think there's injustice in this country against minorities, against poor people, you ain't seen nothing of what's going to happen if this virus elevates to the magnitude of what we saw in China. So those were my concerns. Those were my issues. So I attempted to share it, in a video. And maybe you get it, maybe you don't. I don't know. All I can do is say what I see. And that's that. So at any rate, here in New York City, we have 2 new cases, confirmed virus from assembly members. Okay, people who are elected officials have been infected. Also there are people, celebrities, some more known than others, who have a confirmed case of the virus. Tom Hanks is one. But it is something to take seriously. Whether or not you believe this is a man-made, manufactured disease, or a disease of nature, or you need to take it seriously regardless to how you think this virus came to be on the shores of America. Because we all stand at risk of being affected, and we all should take precautionary measures, but not at the risk of running over people's rights and violating laws and doing all type of things which allow you to do additional violations of laws and things like that. So that's my issue, okay? And that's what it is. I make no apologies for it. That's what it is. And for all the reasons that I've mentioned and some that I haven't. So anyway, visit me on YouTube. I have a channel on YouTube where I try to share information about things, issues going on that I think people ought to be made aware of. I normally deal with police brutality and murder. It's an issue I've been dealing with for 7 years, but I'm concerned with justice or the lack of it in all forms or fashion, because I believe an injury to one is an injury to us all. Okay, so that's all I have to say for now. Dan at Chavis, and I'll see you on Facebook.